In this video, we're going to create a per corner roundness rig with shape layers in Adobe After Effects. I'll show you how to create this rig using the createPath method, expression controls, and some nifty JavaScript efficiency tricks to speed up your workflow when setting these up. Now, if you're here just to grab the preset, skip to the end of the video to see how it works and some of the features of it, and you can grab the preset at the link below. Okay, let's learn how to create this per corner roundness rig. Okay, here we are in After Effects, and in my composition here, I have this pre-comp as a guide, this shape that we're going to recreate with the createPaths method, and then these little indicators around the perimeter of corresponding to the corners of the shape. First off, we want to set up all of our controls. So we're going to start this off by creating a blank shape layer, and I'm just going to call this shape, and then I'm going to add a slider control. And this is our shape width, and this is going to be our shape height. I'll spell it correctly. Cool. I am going to have my global roundness. Cool. And I'm going to call this corner TL. R, BR, and BL going clockwise. And I also need to add in a checkbox control, which I will put in between our global roundness and our corner TL. And this is going to be per corner rounding. Great. And then this per corner rounding is going to activate either per corner rounding, as is in the name, or it's going to just activate global roundness. And you'll see more on that in a little bit. Now, as we're getting started here, I'm just going to lock my shape, and I'll turn it off here and there once we're building it. But first off, we need to add a path property, because this is what we're going to be building in the end. And let's see, we have our just path property. It's blank, as you can see here in the middle. And we are going to activate the expression on it with option click. And now we're just going to be setting up our quick parameters here. Okay, so now we have our base controls set up here. You'll notice for the per corner rounding that I have a dot value attached here at the end. Now when it comes to these checkboxes, sometimes they can get finicky, just like with drop-down controls, because by default, we're referencing the property of the checkbox and not the value that it's returning. Whereas like with a slider, that's how it kind of default works. So when I was doing this on my own before I recorded the tutorial, I found that the dot value was giving me the accurate results, whereas before it wasn't. Now before we move on further, you can see I don't have my corner variables defined. And the reason for that being is we're going to use a little coding trick in the next step, so we don't have to write all these individual variables and then pick whip to each one, and because that's just a little redundant, but I found a speedier way to do that. But before we get too far into that, I'm just going to show you the final method that we're going to be using. And that's going to be the createPath method. And so in that, there are 4 properties. There are points, there are intangents, intan, and then we're going to have out tangents. Now I'm just putting in these variables on my own, these like made up variables. These are all coordinates. And it's actually kind of makes it really simple when we start to build it, but they all have to have the same length of elements in these arrays. And now this final property is a Boolean, true or false. True means that the shape is going to be closed. False means it's going to be open. And we want it to be true. Great. Let's dive into defining these variables for the 4 corners. So I learned about this method using a function, and like I use functions all the time in scripting. Using them in expressions is super helpful too, and it kind of helps us write a little bit of like pseudocode, if you will, where we can just plug things into it and get return values. So here I'm going to define this function as called getCorner, and I'm going to pass in an argument of name. And so here I'm going to be able to pass in this whatever name, and I'll show you in a second. And this is going to be super helpful because now with functions, you have to return something. And so let's see, I'm going to return a value. So what do I want to return? I want to use my per corner rounding variable. Since this is a Boolean, it's going to return true or false. So essentially, I want to say, if this is true, give me one value. If this is false, give me another one. And so if it is true, I'm going to write this in a ternary operator, by the way. Start off with my question mark. So if this is true, then I am going to refer to the effect, and then I am going to refer to name, the effect name, and then I know these are sliders, so that's why I'm putting a 1 after it. If it is false, then I'll just get the global roundness property. Now you might wonder, like, how do we actually use this? So we have our function defined. Now we want to create an array of all of these names, and I'll show you how we're going to actually leverage that in a second. So let's say corner names. I'm going to store all of these corner names in an array. Now I'm going to speed this part up real quick as well, as I'm just going to be copying and pasting corner TL through BL here. Okay, so now I have filled out this array of the corner names. Now what do we do with these? So we're going to use a map function to run our function. That might sound a little confusing, but let me show you here. So I need to store all of these into an array, and I'm going to destructure an array to use this array. So here I need to create just element names that refer to the corner TL, TR, BR, and BL here. And these are going to help us map functions to those elements. See, I'm going to call this corner TL. And these are just made up variables essentially at the moment. Corner TR, corner BR, and then corner BL. Okay, so now that I have this array set up for these variables and we're starting to destructure an array, I need to use a map function .map so I can apply a function to every single element of this array, the corner TL, TR, BR, BL. So since I'm using corner names, I'm taking all of these names here and I'm running a function for each one. And so what is that function that I'm going to run? I'm going to run get corner. With get corner, I don't need the parentheses in the name again. It's already assuming that. It's just JavaScript kind of like syntax. So it already knows what it's doing. So I'm going to map this get corner function, and so basically it's matching up corner TL to corner TL, corner TR to TR, BR, and so forth. And so with that shorthand, we're now going to get our values that we need. So here I'm going to say throw so I can get some quick debugging and testing. Let's throw my corner TL real quick, that variable. And we have an error, of course. But so it says 0, which is true because all of these values are 0. So if I was to bring up this global roundness, I have 52, right? Because my per corner rounding is not checked. So if I go and check it, right, I'm going to get a return value of 0. But if I was to change this value to say 29, oh, I need to actually check this real quick. And then I get 29. And then say if I bring up my corner BL to 48, and I just can change this right here, corner BL to 48. Great. So now we have all these values, and we can treat these corner elements in this array as variables. So this is going to be help us stay very flexible. Now, before we get into filling out this points array in the next step, I'm going to define two quick variables of const half W and then half H. And so these are going to stand for, say, shape width divided by 2 because it's half, and then shape height. Essentially, this helps us keep from writing redundant code. And if you've ever dealt with parametric shapes in After Effects and trying to get like a position type anchor point to move around in a square, this is that same approach, just kind of, again, storing things in variables so we can just quickly add a minus or keep it positive down the line. So now we have all of our variables defined here. I think we're ready to start building our points array. So we're going to build this points array, and then in our next step, we'll build our intangent and outtangent array together, as those kind of go hand in hand. Similar values, just flip-flopped a little bit. So here, let's get to it. So I need to put the points array into a variable named points, and since this is an array, it's going to be an array holding 8 different arrays. That might sound a little confusing at first, but it's just kind of how these things go. And so with these arrays, they are 2 element arrays, just 2 dimensions, like X and Y in this case. And so I'm just going to set these up right here. So I'm going to do a quick little bit of documentation just to make sure that we can follow along pretty easily, because it's really easy to kind of lose track of these, especially when you have multiple points in an array. So I'm going to speed through this part real quick and then catch back up once these are populated. So now I have these arrays set up here. I have my intangent and outtangent. These are just for preview purposes for now. We're not really going to need them yet, but this is going to help us be able to preview kind of how much progress we're making, because the arrays have to be the same length. So we're starting at TL1, and we're going to work our way clockwise to BL2. And so I kind of outlined it here in this little structure, and it's actually pretty easy. So let's kind of start just like writing this out, and I think you'll get the idea as we go, and we'll be able to move a little bit quicker. So kind of similar with parametric shapes. I'm going to start with negative half W, so negative half 2, which means we will go, like essentially we're starting from the middle, our central point, and we're going left, like divide by 2, like half the width of this shape, but negative goes left. Okay, and that'll be kind of the same theme for height as well, so I won't spend too much time on it. So our TL1, all right, negative half W, and then our height is going to be here, negative half H, but we need to plus our corner TL. This is like the sweet kind of like spot to figure out how do we get that per corner rounding, and this will be a common trend that we see for the other ones. So now we have that set up. See, we need our half or minus half W again, but this time I am going to need to plus my corner TL to get this one right here, to get it the same distance away as we did the vertical. So those can be similar values. And then this is just going to be our negative half H. And this also storing these in these variables, so the half W and half H keeps us from having to remember divide by negative 2 or divide by 2. It's so much easier this way. Now, so now we're continuing for our TR1. See, we're going to do half W, and I need to minus my corner TR there. And then I'm going to do minus half H. Great. And then we are going to move forward, keep forward with TR2, again, half W. You kind of see a trend here. And then since that's all the way to the right, there's no corner for the width, but we need a corner for the height. So that's going to be half, half H, negative half H. And I need to plus my corner TR because we're moving down. And with vertical or Y coordinates and you're moving down, it's going plus, based on the origin point in the After Effects compositions. And great, so now we have those these top corners. Now we're going to BR1 and BR2. So BR1, again, it's going to be half W because we're going all the way to the right. And then I need to do my half H. This is positive this time because we're moving down, but I need to subtract my corner BR so it can go like back up, right? So we can move back up this way. Okay, now for BR2, see, we need our half W, but I need to subtract the corner BR so we can move left, I guess, into a negative direction. And then for my height, I just need half H that goes all the way down. And then now moving on to BL1, it's going to be half TW, but negative, right? Because we're moving to the left, but I need to plus my corner BL. I know it's a bunch of all these kind of names back and forth, but this is really helpful in setting this up. So because we're moving right, we have to move positive. And then, so we have our half H moving down, fully down to the bottom. And then finally, for our BL2, we have negative half width, because we're all the way to the left. And then we're going to have our half H fully to the bottom, then minus our corner BL. So now we have something working here. Oh, that's also probably a problem. We don't have a width and height set up yet. So here, let me set this to 800 and 600. There we go. Now we can see some results. We have our rounding right here, our global rounding. And then if I click my per corner rounding, we have these up here, because those are the only ones that kind of have values that to them, other than 0. We can see our TL that's moving. You can see our TR, BR, and then BL. As you can see, there's no tangents yet. We're going to approach that in the next step with our in and out tangents. But now we set up the really hard part now, and then now it's just kind of plugging in values and getting just a little bit of math working in our favor. So yeah, let's jump to that next step, and we are almost there. Now that we have our points array built, let's build our in tangents and out tangents real quick. And this is going to be super easy. Before we get into building those out and populating those, we actually need to define our tangent length. And this is what's going to help us have those like evenly curved edges. So let's start out by defining our variable. We just call this tangent length. And this is super easy, as this is just one value that's fixed, and we don't have to do any kind of crazy math or JavaScript tricks. So our tangent length is going to equal 0.552. Now, I have seen this somewhere online. I don't know exactly why this is, but there's some mathematical reason why this length is like the length. Some people have done more accurate calculations or code to figure it out, but for most cases, 0.552 does just fine. These coordinates are, we have our coordinates of our points here, and these coordinates in these arrays are going to correlate to each of those points, which is really helpful. That's why we have the TL1 guides in this whole structure for both in tangent and out tangent. So for this first point, this in tangent is going to be whatever is coming into TL1, and the out tangent is going to be whatever going out, like going this way. And the same thing for all these other ones. In is this way, because that's the direction of our path. Out is this way. So in and then out. And the way we use the tangent length is we're going to multiply our like corner radius by that amount. So see, for this first value here, our x is actually going to be 0, so we'll keep that. And then our n for our y is actually going to be, I believe that's also 0, 0. Actually, yeah, because our n is this way, and we don't need anything done. So for our n for this one right here, TL2, that is going to be, let's see, negative tangent length multiplied by our corner TR. Or sorry, TL, my apologies. And then y is going to be 0. So if I hit enter there, you can see we already have some rounding. If I turn off my reference, we already have a little bit of rounding. So we can kind of keep following the same flow because it's going to alternate 0, 0, and then a value as we go forward. Cool, let me undo that. So we have our reference guide. Cool, so now we are on our in tangent for TR1, and this is just the in tangents. So that's going to be 0. And then our in tangent for TR2, which is right here, that's going to be a 0 for the x, because we're not going left or right with it, but we're going to need to get our y value. And so with that, we're going to have our, say, minus tangent length multiplied by corner TR. And enter again. Cool. So we have our BR1. It's going to be 0, 0 because of our in tangent. And then our in tangent for BR2 is that we need to apply that to the x dimension here. So let me move my cursor. And so we're going to have our tangent length. That's going to be positive because we're moving right. And then multiplied by our corner BR. Awesome. And then for our BL1, our 0, 0, our tangent is going to be 0, 0 for the in tangent. And then our in tangent for BL2, that's going to be on the y. So let's see here. We're going to have our tangent length times corner BL. And this stays a positive number because we are going down. So I'll move out of that real quick. You can kind of see we all have that roundness. Now we just need the out tangents to make that even. So this is going to be very similar. So the out tangents for TL1 on the y are going to be, see, I can just kind of like copy these actually. So let's see here, because it's going to be a minus. All right, so we have our rounded corner there. And let's just keep doing that. So I can just copy these values from up here. And then, so this is our TR1. We need our out tangent for there. And so minus tangent length times corner TR. This is actually going to be a positive because we're moving to the right. And then, let's see, let me copy and paste my tangent length BR. So BR1 is going to be our y. Those are the out tangent that we need to focus on. And so, yep, that's going to be tangent length multiplied by corner BR, that positive. Great. And then one final one, because everything else is going to be 0, 0, is our BL1 out tangent. And that is going to be right here, our tangent length times corner BL. And that is actually going to be a negative because we are going to the left. Because again, we're going clockwise, so we're going to move this way. And so if I click away, we have our fully rounded rectangle. Let me just make sure, here, let's change our fill to white just so we can kind of see the difference here. And I don't know how that got renamed, but see, we have our layer here, and let us just do the global rounding. As you can see here, cool, we are rounding all of our corners with full control on our end. I can set it to 0, of course, great. Let's set it back to 50. Now I'm gonna or actually 60 because the other one was 60 as well. And let's do that per corner rounding. Nothing has changed because all of these are set to 60. But now if I drag this one out, look, we are getting that roundness. Now, I will caveat this, like, I don't know the answer to this because there's maybe some code or some math that I just haven't figured out yet, and I didn't really want to use AI to figure it out yet. But if I go too far, as you can see, it like really distorts the shape, and you probably don't want that. So just keep an eye out for that because that could be annoying, but it's kind of easy just to dial that in, and you could always do zeros for the like bottom left here. Here, I'm gonna turn off my reference shape right there. But as you can see, we have our shape and we have our per corner roundness, which is awesome. And then you can animate this as well. So I can save my corner TL. I have my keyframe right there. I'm gonna move this down a little bit and let's set this to say 0. See, let's set this all to 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, and then moving forward, let's see here. This is gonna be, I don't know, maybe 120. Maybe this is, I don't know, 300. And then maybe this is 50. Cool. So we have all of these here. Now, I would usually use like something like Motion 4 to ease these, but this is just for demonstration purposes. And I am just going to get some easing right here. And then we can just offset these keyframes as well real quick. Just quick little slides. So we're here at 0, 0. Awesome. Animate, animating, animating, and animating. As promised in the beginning of our video, I am also providing a preset that I created that is really lightweight, and you can take it with you for different projects that you want to use it for to get this per corner rounding effect, calling it KM square rig. And so as you can see here, we have control over the width, we have control over the height. All of these are keyframeable. We have our global roundness. We can do per corner rounding. These are all 60 like we were in the beginning, but we have that as well. And the reason this moves up too, I want to caveat as well, is that I have anchor point expressions here. As you can see here, we have a selection of an anchor point from where it starts, which is really helpful for if you want like a specific direction. But if you push the roundness too far, that's totally okay. I doubt you're going to need to go that far, but just keep that in mind. There are some like gotchas with this setup. Maybe one day, once I learn a little bit more, we'll be able to really dial that in. But there's might be some other tools that could be better for the job in the meantime. But yeah, I hope this preset helps you out. I hope it kind of speeds up your workflow a bit. Or if you're curious about how some of the code works, you can just hit EE on the expressions and like dial that in here. It's a lot of the same code that we went through here before with some different naming. But yeah, I really hope you find that useful. In this video, we leveraged the createPath method to create a custom shape, and we gave our user full control over individual corner rounding. We used array destructuring to work more efficiently with our multiple corner roundness controls, and we prevented redundant code. Then we applied the map method to map a custom function to each point that dictated if a corner was able to be rounded or not. And finally, when all was said and done, we built our own tool from scratch to solve a common pain point when using Adobe After Effects.